Good afternoon and welcome to Breaking Fry Bread. I'm Dave Wescott. I'm kicking it over to Ty to kick off our introductions this morning.
What's going on, brother?
You know, everything great.
Well, we got a special guest with us today. We have Israel Silva. He's a good friend of mine. He's got a decorated portfolio and background. Currently, he is the director of collegiate recruiting for Iridium Sports Agency. He's been a D1 wrestling coach for 15 years, four-time world team member for Mexico, four-time PanAm medalist, 2012 Olympic alternate, and he's been married for 19 years with four amazing kids. You know, I happen to know a couple of them. Amazing kids, amazing family. Welcome to the show, Izzy. Thanks for being with us.
My pleasure. And you got to add, I'm from Washington as well. So
he is a Washington native.
There you go. What part of Washington?
Marysville. I actually grew up on the Puyallup Indian Reservation for majority of my life. So familiar with the tribal life. And I tell a story all the time that I thought I was part of the tribe, because they took me to all the activities and travel basketball and some of that. So I didn't know any different, but I thought I was a Puyallup tribal member for a long time.
You can pass for one, that's for sure.
I was just up there for the canoe journeys.
Oh, that's an awesome event. I love following it, on social media, on Facebook. All my close friends that I grew up with, are still very much involved. So yeah, I follow it. It's an amazing event.
That canoe work is the teamwork that goes into that is incredible. And that's got to play closely into like the teamwork that it takes to be on a wrestling team.
Yeah, a lot of discipline, a lot of sacrifice, having to rely on, the other people in the boat, the other people on the team. So they go hand in hand for sure.
Yeah, that's pretty cool. So Olympic alternate, that's got to be pretty awesome.
Yes and no. Obviously you wanted to make the games, and that's been my goal my whole life. And I just missed it, really. A couple Olympic qualifiers. There's 4 Olympic qualifiers in the Olympic year, and 2 of them, you have to place or you have to make the finals in order to qualify for the Olympics. And in 2 of the 4 events, I lost in the semis and got a bronze medal. So I just missed it. And in the PanAm qualifier, I lost the match 1-1, and the person who scored last wins the match. So I scored first, the Cuban scored second, and I lost the match, and that's how I missed wrestling in the Olympic Games.
By criteria?
By criteria. But I always tell people, like, that was my goal, and, it is bittersweet, but the experience that I had traveling the world and the connections and the journey, I'm very appreciative of who I became and the experiences that I had rather than, focusing on not wrestling in the games.
What's the number one thing that you learned on that trip? Like for any, natives out there, for any youth out there, what is the number one thing that it takes to play sports at that level?
It's just sacrifice and commitment. I sacrificed a lot of my family life, my kids, my wife put her career on hold. I poured everything into it, and at the end of the day, not qualifying, I knew I did everything right. I knew I didn't cut any corners. I did it. It just wasn't meant to be. And I can live with myself, that I did it all the right way, so just, it takes a lot of discipline, a lot of sacrifices. There's times where you don't feel like you're making progress towards your goal, but I was committed to that goal for 8 years. But
wow.
Like I said, the connections that I have, the relationships that I have, like Ty mentioned earlier in the show, I have a pretty big network nationally, and a lot of it is, from my coaching and my, competitive career.
That's awesome. And Ty, your kids are you're a big wrestler too, right? Your family's big into wrestling.
Yeah, I just wanted to say, like, it just shows there's levels to this. I was a wrestler, high school wrestler, and I wrestled 1 year in college. And that's kind of how I knew who Izzy was. He was a 2-time state champ here in Washington, and we happened to bump into each other at a dual tournament randomly, and I recognized him. So I said, "Hey, what's up, man?" And we kind of been talking ever since. But just to get onto the level that you did, Olympic alternate, is crazy. I mean, representing Mexico in the world, and for the worlds, it's what I tell my kids is like there's levels to this sport. I mean, just like in any sport, there's levels to it, and it's about your level of sacrifice, level of commitment that you're willing to give up to reach those levels. You know, so yeah, that's kind of been my message to my kids and their journey through wrestling. Um, I as they get older, it's tough, right? Because they're wrestling at a high level for years, right, with a lot of sacrifice. So how do you keep it fun? How do you keep them engaged? How do you keep them hungry to want to keep getting better? And luckily, thankfully to Izzy, he took in Ty Jr. this summer and gave him a little bit of a taste of what California style training is like. It was only a couple weeks or 10 days or so, but I mean, just that little bit helped him jumpstart his workouts and his training back here at home. And he kind of sees what type of level of commitment it takes over there. And, he was training a lot.
Yeah.
So, yeah.
I think what how I motivate my boys and really, my boys have aspirations to make, our USA world team and have the same goals that I did, and then it's up to me to facilitate that, So what I've done in the last couple of years, I've stepped away from college coaching a few years ago during COVID, and I wanted to focus on just my boys and my career outside of coaching. But I know that if it's just me and my boys, that it's hard to keep them motivated, or it's tough. It's not easy. But what I've done is I want to build a group around my boys. I mean, so I have probably a group of 12 to 14 boys that I train, and I don't charge them, and I give them the same level of training that I do with the Brandon Moreno or some of the guys that I've coached that won world and Olympic medals. I'm giving them that training, so I'm building that group atmosphere around my boys. And Ty saw it. Ty came to our house for 2 weeks, and right away he jumped right into it. And it's a lifestyle. It's from strength conditioning, getting up in the morning. It's your diet, your nutrition, your recovery. Plus the hard training and wrestling. So I try to build a group around my boys that can help. They can all grow together. So it's a group mentality, and they're all wanting the same thing. So that's kind of what I've been focused on the last 24 months. As my boys, their eighth graders are going to be, high school freshmen. This is the first year that they're eligible to make an age group world team for the USA, and they've won national titles. But that's what I'm focusing on is building a support system that all like these kids all have the same goals and aspirations. Then we can do it together.
That's awesome. One of the things I've noticed in sports training is that it's really hard to keep the focus. As an example, a good friend of mine was a trainer at the Mayweather gym for 17 years in Las Vegas. We went in on a gym together in Vegas, opened it up, just training professional fighters, just particularly for boxing. And in this gym, like, what I learned was, one, it takes a long time to get a fighter where he needs to be. And what I learned was that, like, the first 10 fights, 15 fights, we're paying for those fights. Those fights aren't free for us. Like, we don't get paid to be there. Like, I'm writing a $7,000 check just to get the guy into the ring. And then he's training for 6 to 8 weeks, and we're purchasing his supplements, and he's got a strength coach, and he's got a boxing coach, and he's got a nutritionalist, and we've got food, and we've got everything there. And then if we can get him to 17-0, if we can get him to 18-0, and we can start to get some, decent fights, like Memphis Miller is one of the fighters in our deal. If maybe you've heard of him, maybe haven't, but no big deal. But you get him there, and then it's the distractions, right? They think they're killing it. They think they're doing an amazing job. Drugs, girls, loss, done. And you're talking about a $250,000 to $500,000 investment in a fighter that, like, 90% of the time isn't going to produce. Like, it's not going to get there. It's not going to get across the finish line. and you look at the discipline that it takes, and even the guys who are disciplined, you know, they go into some fight in Kansas City, they lose, and now it's like, oh man, we're back to the drawing board, and you know, we're trying to get a fight and we're paying for fights again. And so like in that world of just competitive combat fighting, you know, what I've noticed is that just keeping the focus is just incredibly difficult. How do you instill focus and discipline? How do you keep distractions like drugs, girls, you know, because it's everywhere? How do you keep them focused on the mission? How do you keep that drive going?
I think for my boys, you know, and they're young, they're 15, but they're starting high school next year, and I've already had conversations with them like, hey, like you're not going to have a social life. You're not going to have sleepovers. You're not going to have this. This is the reason why. Like I've experienced it. I'm kind of going to cut out the distractions. At the same time, they might miss out on, you know, going to a football game or a school dance or sleepovers, like, you know, those little things. But I'm going to have them flying with me to Las Vegas to train with Brandon Moreno. I'm going to have them, you know, go to Oklahoma State and be surrounded by David Taylor. So I kind of remind them of the big picture. You know, yeah, these kids might have, you know, a short, you know, not gratitude, but short, like excitement in their life. I mean, but after at the end of the night, that's over. You guys are going to be able to, you know, travel the world. I just got their passports. They're going to travel with me, you know,
Yeah.
everywhere. But just focusing on like the big world out there, and not like so short-minded. And even with the agency, you know, the things you talk about, it's the same thing. The high level guys that we have within our agency, the Brandon Morenos, the Cheeto Veras, the Diego, you know, Lopez, the Alexa Brassos, they have success because they're professionals. They cut out those distractions. They're not worried about you know, parties and drugs and alcohol, and that's why you see the success. And then we have other guys that have just the same amount of ability, but their diet sucks. You know, they want to stay out late. They're not willing to put the consistent training camp in, and that's why they haven't arrived just yet. Whenever they figure out that professionalism, you know, of their lifestyle, then that's when they start getting the results, you know, in the cage, in the ring.
That's awesome. I love that.
Yeah. So you just mentioned the sports agency. Can we talk a little bit about that? What is Iridium Sports Agency?
Iridium Sports Agency is the largest combat sports agency in the world. We have about 300 to 400 clients. We have about 130 guys in the UFC. I got brought on probably 3 years ago, you know, when I left coaching, and it's not my full-time career. It's kind of a supplement. It's kind of more of a passion project. But Jason House is the owner CEO. He brought me in, and then the managing partner, Jeremy Luchow, I coached his son at Fresno State. You know, so I've always been around it, good relationship with those guys. But then they started wanting to recruit some wrestlers. You know, I mean, oh, I want to sign this guy. I want to sign this guy. Hey, you know, can you introduce us to this guy? So I was just making early on. I was making introductions, kind of vouching for Iridium. You know, I had no role. You know, so we were signing guys and stuff like that. And they're like, hey, we want to bring you on at a full-time capacity. Like, what's that look like? You know, so I said, hey, like, let me be the, you know, director of collegiate recruiting. You know, I'm tapped in with every Division I coach, whoever you need. So once the NIL, you know, pay for play started happening, that's when we developed our NIL programs. We have 12 Division I college wrestlers right now signed to Iridium Sports Agency. All these 12 have aspirations to go into MMA and not do like chase the Olympic dream. You know, so it's kind of like our G League, so to say, you know, where we're developing these guys, we're helping them, you know, get deals, we're managing them, you know, a lot of them are getting a lot of NIL money, so we're teaching them how to manage their money so they're not broke. A lot of education, they cross train in the off season. So when it's time for them to graduate and move on to MMA, they're ahead of the curve. You know, I mean, we can kind of fast track them because the last 2, 3, 4 years, they've already been learning the MMA space. They've been learning the striking. We've had them part of training camps and stuff like that. So that's kind of what I run, you know, is the managing of the collegiate athletes that we have right now. And then I also run our summer camp series where we give opportunities for our college guys to work these camps, make extra money, but also we're kind of providing opportunities for youth to be around high level wrestling and give back as well.
So you
That's
have
awesome.
some big name D1 wrestlers. So Kyle Parko.
We have Kyle Parko, Steve Buchanan. Like we have all the top 149 pounders. You know, Parko, Ridge Lovett, Ty Waters, who's he's hurt right now. Josh Barr from Penn State. You know, probably missing out a few, but yeah, we have the two Cubans from Iowa State, the heavyweight, the 149 pounder, Younger and Enchimendia. Then we also had David Taylor. David Taylor, when he was competing, you know, and the best in the world, pound for pound, he was one of our clients, still is a client. Now we are helping him help grow Oklahoma State. So we're very much in the process of with Oklahoma State. You know, we brokered the deal to get David to go to Oklahoma State.
That's
Wow,
awesome,
that's
man.
awesome.
He had some Dave Taylor, he had some MMA aspirations for a while there, didn't he?
Yeah, that was kind of when he was a little bit of a downtime. You know, he got done with the World Championships, wanted to continue to train. So we got him at Factory X in one of our affiliate gyms, you know, and he was training with Alex Smith and Cody Brudgens, those guys. So he did a couple training camps just to see how he liked it. So
What's the learning curve going from wrestling to MMA?
I think the learning curve is striking. You know, it's striking and being comfortable in your hands, being comfortable on your feet. I know, you know, wrestlers, as soon as, you know, it gets a little hairy in the fight, they're gonna go for the takedown, you know. So just being comfortable to stand and trade and get hit and that those kind of things, that's the biggest learning curve. But as far as training and what a wrestler is willing to do, we are far, you know, way above uh, any combat sports. You know, I mean, what we've done as little kids, wrestling and learning how to fail and getting back up and training and discipline and diet and all those things. Um, that's where I think wrestlers have the advantage.
Hmm.
Wrestling is that foundational sport, as I usually call it, that you learn how to survive in deep water. You learn how to cut weight at a young age. You learn how to diet. And you're in these controlled fights at a young age. So you could tell the difference between a wrestler in the octagon and maybe just a street fighter. You know, just the level of toughness, the level of heart. You could also tell the wrestlers that have no idea how to strike. So just like you said, if they don't have the striking game, you could tell right away they go right in for the takedowns and they can be neutralized as well. But yeah, wrestling is definitely the strong foundation to an MMA fighter.
You mentioned this Cali style versus Washington style, and you were talking about how the Cali style, you know, kind of beats up on the Washington style, or the Washington guys don't place when it comes to, you know, wrestlers in California. What is the difference there? Like,
I think the both have the same ability, I believe. I mean, there's very good wrestlers in Washington, um, but it's so saturated. You know, what I mean, like they're all spread out across the state. You know, we're in the Central Valley here, where Buchanan is a top 5 team in the country. Clovis High, which is separated by 3 miles, is a top 20 program in the country. You know, and we have Gilroy a couple hours. You know what I mean? So we're around high level competition as youth year round. You know, where a kid in Washington might be really good. You know, like an Arcadius. You know, just off the top of my head, nobody in Washington challenges him. You know, growing up, he was the best kid. You know, we might have 2 guys that are ranked in the top 10 of the country, and we're in the same neighborhood. You know, so you can see this kid, you know, 6, 7 times a year just in the local tournaments. You know, and that might be a national finals, you know, when they go somewhere else. So that contributes to it. But also like why like the area that we're in is so good is Clovis Unified School District. You know, we have 6 high schools, I believe, in it, all very good high schools. Those high schools have junior high programs, but those 6 high schools also have 6 elementary schools that feed to those high schools. We have elementary sports. You know what I mean? We have tackle football, we have basketball, we have cross country, we have wrestling, we have baseball, we have softball, all this offered in the elementary level, and it's free. So if you win, we just had our elementary district tournament a few weeks ago. If you win that elementary district tournament, the chances of you being a high placer at the state tournament is very high. So you're gonna go, get on a school bus. You're gonna go to another elementary school, and you're gonna have a dual match, versus another elementary school. You're gonna play football. So that's why I believe this pocket, of California is ahead of a lot of the country, or Washington, because I know there's no elementary sports, in Washington.
I've
and
never even heard of that.
Yeah, no, it's crazy. Like you'll have it even in the fall, not wrestling season. You'll bring one elementary school will go to another elementary school, and you're gonna have this big field where you're gonna have a cross country meet going on the outside of the field, while you have a JV and a football game going on in the middle, and then we have outdoor volleyball courts where they just set up, and then you have women's volleyball going on at the same time. So it's like a carnival every week.
Wow.
They have food vendors, some of that. So you're having that, as at the elementary level, so the competition, like all the foundations there, and it's all free.
Wow, that's incredible, because it's not like that in Washington.
So,
That is incredible. I mean, you're not going to find organized sports here unless you're paying to be a part of an organization, right? Like they don't offer that at the elementary level, especially wrestling. The only wrestling here for the youth is either USA Wrestling or PCJWL, which is fairly competitive. It's good, and but yeah, the middle school sports has fallen big time here in Washington compared to when we were in junior high. I mean, junior high wrestling was competitive.
yeah.
And it meant something to be a league champion in junior high, but now it's kind of honestly, it's kind of a joke. It's kind of falling apart. So, yeah.
I would say in California as well, wrestling. I know a lot of the states, like football's king, basketball's king, some of that in California, and in San Diego, in the LA area, and then here in the Central Valley, wrestling rivals those two top sports.
Wow.
The community loves
That's
wrestling.
impressive.
When I was coaching at Fresno State, we had top three attendance nationally. We were up there with the Penn States, the Iowas, Oklahoma States. Fresno State, we would average 5,000 fans, every home match. The community supported it.
Wow. I want to go back to this time in Marysville. You said you grew up in Marysville. You grew up Puyallup Reservation. You thought, hey, I thought I was even a Puyallup tribal member for a period of time. I wonder, on the path that you're on, or wherever your life was, where would you be without wrestling today?
Oh, I wouldn't have anything. I credit, my marriage, my life, my experiences, my career, all to the sport. No doubt about it. I got a late start in wrestling. I didn't start wrestling until 7th grade, which Ty knows.
Wow.
That's pretty late, and I wrestled until I was 30 years old. But I actually moved from Southern California to Washington in elementary school.
Okay.
So once I got there, I played zero sports, and my family and my life in California, I had a lot of cousins that were gang members, in and out of jail, some murdered, all that stuff. So when I moved to Washington, that's kind of, I still was on that path.
Mm-hmm.
I got introduced to basketball first, tribal basketball and Puyallup is big, So I played basketball before I did any sports, and I was pretty good. And I got to travel, with the tribe and go play against Swinomish, go to Lummi and all these, different tribes and play basketball. But there was no way I was going to make it in basketball as far as I did in wrestling. In 7th grade, in middle school, I was getting in trouble, and our principal was the wrestling coach. So he said, I forget what I got in trouble for, and I was about to get suspended. He said, I was a big kid like Ty, but I was athletic. I played basketball. But he's like, if you come out for the wrestling team, I won't suspend you. And his name is Rob Lowry. Still remember him. He's an amazing man. Him and Tom Shaw were the middle school coaches. My very first year of wrestling, my first 2 years of wrestling, I went undefeated in the middle school season.
Wow.
And after that, I was the man. You know what I mean? I got a lot. In basketball, I was on the bench. In wrestling, I was undefeated, district champ, everything. So I was like, hey, this wrestling stuff is easy, So from eighth grade on, I started wrestling year round, and
Wow.
I was around my next coach, Boyd Ballard, who was a couple-time Washington State champ, uh, wrestled at the U.S. Open. He was my personal coach through high school, and I wanted to break all his records. He was top 5 in the U.S. in Greco-Roman. Very, very, very good coach. But he taught me to start thinking about international wrestling. Going to Fargo, winning freestyle, doing Greco. Like he was telling me, the best guys in the country don't just wrestle in the high school season. And we also had a very good club back then, USA Everett. That I think we had, you know, a dozen Division I guys in the room when we were there. Coy Coopers, those type of guys. But from that moment, I was hooked.
Wow.
And I'm still hooked to wrestling. I can't get enough of it. My wife thinks I'm crazy. I'll YouTube I'm watching a practice from Russia. How they practice, what they do, and just digesting it. But if I don't get that chance and don't get suspended and wrestle, I don't know where I would be. I might have not finished high school. There's no way that I would have went to college, and then obviously I had a lot of more influences once I went to college, to continue that path to try to win a world and Olympic medal,
You could
but
have been a statistic. I mean, you could have been in and out of jail.
1000%. 1000%. I would have been there, no doubt about
Mm.
it. And wrestling really saved my life.
Yeah, that's what I
Wrestling.
took from it. That's amazing.
Yeah.
When
No,
did you when did you
uh,
develop that fancy leg sweep that your signature move in high school? When did you pick that
uh,
up?
it was from my coach. And just getting guys off balance and being strong and stuff like that, and getting guys to step. But I think my junior year, I started foot sweeping guys and getting them off balance, and I was like, this is a lot easier than shooting underneath the guy and getting stuck. So I started
Yeah.
developing it my sophomore junior year. But
Nice.
I credit it, and then that's kind of why I do what I do now. I don't charge kids. I devote my time. Somebody invested their time in me, and I don't remember paying anything. And
Mm.
I like to pay it forward. And this sport gave me everything that I have in my life, and I want to be able to kind of give that back to anyone that wants it.
That's pretty
Yeah,
amazing.
I just kind of want to go back a little bit to the Washington versus other states wrestling. You know, we got WIAA coming up. The state tournament is coming up this weekend. There's some. I don't want to take away from Washington. We have some dogs here. We have Justice, the Zuniga brothers over in Toppenish. Ording has a bunch of returning state champs. We have some dogs here, right? And but the difference between California and some of these other states and Washington is Washington, if you're a state champion here, you're a class state champ. So you're a class 4A state champ, or you're a class 3A, 2A, 1A. I know California, there's no class. If you're a state champion, you're an all class state champion,
Yeah.
right? And California is a big state, so that's kind of like why we use California as a comparison, because California is so big, and if you're a state champion of California, man, that college recruiters are looking at that. I mean, you're getting a D1 scholarship no matter what, right?
No, even our second, third, fourth, fifth place guys are getting scholarships, Division I scholarships. We have a weight class, the 144, Nikkei Zinkin, Joe Toscano. They live less than 5 miles apart. They're both ranked top 5 in the country. And they probably, by the end of it, they'll wrestle 7 times this year.
Wow.
They wrestled at Super 32 in the placing rounds. They wrestled in the Doc B finals. They wrestled in the dual meet that we had that had 3,000 fans. We have our Valley Championships, which is our small district tournament. They're going to wrestle in the finals of that. Then we have our Masters. They're going to wrestle in the finals of that. Then they're going to wrestle in the state finals. Both these guys are ranked top 5 in the country, and they're going to wrestle each other 8 times this year.
Man, I know that name Toscano. I've tried to recruit him on aggression dual teams in the past, and came close a few times, and we couldn't get him there. But dude, yeah,
Great kid.
California.
He's one of my kids that I work with. He's in the group of kids that I train, and he's an awesome kid. He's bought in. He's already committed to go to Cornell. So those two kids that I'm talking about, Nicade's going to Nebraska and Toscano's going to Cornell.
Wow.
Wow.
Two powerhouse wrestling programs.
Yeah.
Cornell's where really smart people go. What is that?
Yeah, Ivy League.
Ivy League. Yeah. Yeah. I just want to talk a little bit about, I want to give Red Wave Wrestling Program a shout out. You know, we have a great relationship. I built a great relationship through you, through Ruben, right? Ruben and Paul, you know, Paul Ruiz over there. You guys and Damani, coach, right?
Yeah, yeah.
Man, you guys got a great thing going there. A great room, and we actually built our first powerhouse. Kind of Red Wave kind of helped put aggression on the map as far as the national duel tournament went. You know, we partnered. Red Wave didn't get a ticket into this big tournament. It's called the VAC Duels. So we kind of partnered with Red Wave, and it was Team Aggression, but it was a lot of Red Wave kids. I don't want to get it twisted. I want to make sure they got the credit, but man, we put together a badass team.
Yeah.
I mean, we went in there, we were unranked, nobody knew who we were, and we're talking 36 national teams, and we made it to the finals out of the 36, and we lost by a narrow margin to our arch nemesis, Powa.
I think what was great about that tournament is nobody cared about, you know, what is going to be aggression, is going to be Red Wave. You know, this team's built with a lot of Red Wave kids. We all just wanted the competition for the kids, you know, and the group of parents that put it together, Coach Cruz, Ty, John Martinez, and Paul and I, like, we just wanted our kids to get the best competition. And that team came together awesome. And those are relationships that we'll have for the next 10, 15, 20 years, you know. But yeah, the kids put the work in. They're the ones that put it on the line, and they were rewarded from it. So the name on the back, you know, or the front of the chest didn't matter. It was all about just supporting each other, and it was a good time.
Yeah, and that's kind of the message I give to my kids is, you know, I sit back sometimes and watch them playing with their friends that they just got done getting in a bloody scrap fight on the mat, and then now the next minute they're playing Pokemon cards or something on the side of the mat, or playing Xbox together, or, you know, whatever, making friends, right? And then, you know, I sit back and look at them like, man, these guys are going to be friends for years. Like, this is them building their network now. You know, this is something I didn't have as a kid. I'm sure you didn't have this as a kid, right? The opportunity to travel nationally and build your network at a young age, right? So I'm trying to harp that on them, like, man, you need to nurture these relationships you're building. Like, you guys are building your future network, you know. So, but yeah, great experiences.
Having Ty come down, you know, we went up there, and remember, I went up and did a camp in Toppenish, and you could have come, and I was like, hey, tell Ty and Arcadius I'll pick him up at the airport, and they'll drive over with me, and I'll take care of them. It's like, those are, Arcadius is beating up on my boys when they're younger. You know, they're kind of rivals, but like, hey, let's go train with them. Let's bring them, you know, and they're good buddies, and, you know, we support them. So the people that do it right in this sport, that's the mentality that they have. The people that are trying to guard something and protect something, or don't want to take losses and some of that, those are the people that I believe get burnt out at the end. You know, but if you're open-minded and you want to keep evolving and you want to be challenged, you know what I mean? It's, you know, it's that sad principle where you know, put yourself in tough situations, and your body and mind will adapt. You know what I mean? So that's where I feel the kids that have success, they keep looking for those challenges. And I feel the kids that get burnt out, or the parents that get burnt out, is they want to protect something. They want to protect the ranking. They want to protect their name. They don't want to take a loss. Like, my kids lose all the time. My kids are both ranked top 5 in the country. They lose all the time, but we're going to continue to lose all the time. But, you know, we want those challenges.
How do you guys prepare kids for life after wrestling? What does that look like?
For me, it's, you know, I'm also experiencing that. I have a 20-year-old son who is wrestling Division 1. He's at West Point, you know, at the, you know, I mean, you know, we've kind of instilled I had a conversation with my boys yesterday, you know, on the way home. I was like, hey, you know, just a little coming home from practice. I was like, hey, you guys are starting school next year. 4.0 is the standard. They're capable of it. You know, I want every single door open to them. I don't want them to be, hey, these are your options because your academics, you know, weren't on par. I
Yeah.
want their you're good enough to go to this school, but your academics won't allow you to go there. So for me, and that's with all my guys, like you have to have a 4.0. The academics are just as important. You know, how you act in society, the social aspect is just as important as the rest of the results. So having all three of those things um, are equally as important. You know, so my son, you know, good wrestler, state champ, he was ranked top 20 in the country out of high school. He decided to go to West Point because he made the decision. It's a 20-year decision, not a, you know, I'm going to go to college, you know. And once you go to West Point, you do your 4 years of college eligibility, then you have a 5-year commitment to serve in the military. But the coach talks about it different. You know what I mean? It's like once you graduate, you have a job in the Army. You're not
Mm-hmm.
serving. You are serving, but you have a job in the field that you want to be in. What 23-year-old graduates from college, regular college, and already has a job in a career in their career that they want to? You know, a lot of 23-year-olds that graduate college, they're still lost, you know,
Mm-hmm.
where to go next. So now at West Point, you get a job for 5 years. Now at 5 years, your commitment's over. You're 28 years old, but you have all this work experience. You can either re-enlist in another 10 years, you're retiring with full pension at 38 years old, or you can
Wow.
get out of the military, the Army, and you have 5 years and you put West Point on any application or resume,
Yeah.
you're getting in right away. So my son, I instilled that in my son to like look past that, you know what I mean? And he actually chose his career a few weeks ago, and he's going to choose law and legal studies. He wants to be a JAG in the military, you
Wow.
know, and that was and
Okay.
that was and that was a decision he made on his own. But it's through the foundation and the building blocks that we instilled in him at 13 to 18 that he's able to make those decisions and how important those decisions are. So I believe, to answer your question, long-winded, um, preparing kids after college happens now in their adolescent stage. You know, the
Mm.
13 to 15, teaching them discipline, teaching them decision making. You know what I mean? And even if they make the wrong decision, educating on them on, hey, I know you did this, but this is why it was wrong. You know, we should have done this way, this way. Let's not repeat that mistake again. You know, so the education process for them to be able to think on their own and make the right decisions and be ambitious comes from the age 11 to 18, I believe.
That's incredible. It sounds like do you really have a focus on instilling a culture of discipline in your kids?
Absolutely. I mean,
And
that's
I just got to touch on we talked about the network, and I know Tathan, because of your network, because of your connections, your college roommate happened to be Israel Martinez, who is one of the top wrestling coaches in the UFC, who's trained some of the top fighters. Now you're at that level, so we got to throw your name in the mix. But Tathan was able to go because of your network and your connections. He was able to go and live with Israel Martinez, Izzy style wrestling, as we'll call it, and train there and compete over there in Chicago, right?
yeah. My son wasn't on not that he was getting in trouble, but he wasn't on the path to be successful. You know, he
Mm.
would have done fine. He would have graduated. He would have went to college, but we didn't like what was surrounding him here. So, you know, Izzy's one of my best friends. He's like a brother. He's like an uncle. You know, but he's also one of the top coaches in the world. My son went to live with him for his last 2 years of high school, and he went to a private Christian school. The academic standards were very, very, very high. So it was almost like his college prep. So yeah, our son left at 15 years old to sacrifice, to be more disciplined, to kind of cut out the distractions and be more focused on the goal. Yeah, he left for his last 2 years of high school, and then from there he's been at West Point. So he's been gone for 4 years, you know, from our home.
Wow.
But at the same time, because he made that sacrifice is at 15, 16, 17, the transition to be in New York and be at West Point has been very easy. Where some kids are struggling with their transition. It's the first time being away from home. They're getting homesick. They're leaving the academy. Like my son is thriving. He's on the dean's list now. And like he's doing well because of the decisions that we made, you know, early on.
Hmm. How does that impact the siblings, seeing their older brother? I'm guessing older brother,
Yeah, yeah.
you
No,
know, be out.
he's he is a great resource, and he's made comments to him and I was very, very tough on him, and I won't apologize for it because he got to where he was because of how strict and stern I was. He reiterates to the boys like, "Hey, listen to Dad. He knows what he's doing. Like, I'm having success because of the tough love, the discipline, the sacrifice." At the same time, they saw the work that he was doing, and now the work is paying off for him. So it's like the formula works. Our strategy is working. It's proven to work. You know what I mean? So it's not always fun, but let's continue the path. I try to make it fun. I give them stuff, so it's not all militant here. But it does come at a cost. But he's a very good resource for his brothers and very invested in their success as well.
It's a proven formula, but it takes a strong supporting wife, right? That supports this type of formula and this type of training and discipline and I'll be honest, man. I see the life that Izzy lives. It's a disciplined life. He doesn't just preach it to his kids. He lives it himself. And it's tough. And
What is a disciplined life? What does that look like?
I mean, I'm up at 4:15 every day. My boys are at the gym with me at 5 a.m. probably 3 or 4 times a day. Everything that
carnivore. You've been on the carnivore diet for over a year now.
Yeah, lost about 60, 70 pounds. Just eating meat and eggs for over a year. But I don't know. It's just pouring everything that we have, into our kids. Everything's about our kids. You know what I mean? I want to be healthy for my kids. I don't want to be someone that is telling my kids to do something. I always say that show them what the work looks like. If I want my kid to work out and if I'm still able, my body's still able to hold up, I want to show them what the work looks like. So I'm up sacrificing with them. And on the car ride to the gym in the mornings, saying, hey, as much as you guys are going to get stronger right now, you're going to get a little bit of a shape. Like, these are the memories that you're going to look back. You're going to tell your kids, hey, Dad and I, or your grandpa and I, used to get up at the gym, go to the gym at 4 a.m. We used to do this, this, and this. Like, I'm more now thinking about my legacy, and my boys, having their families and my grandkids, something like that. And I want them to kind of pay it forward as well. So just investing everything that we have into our family. My wife is amazing. She's a native as well. She's from the Wescott tribe in Idaho. So she grew up on an Indian reservation. So
she's an athlete herself, right?
Yeah,
college athlete.
Yep, college basketball player. She was a state champ hurdler, state champ basketball player. So without her, none of this is possible either because she's just as hard on the boys to live a disciplined lifestyle as I am. I mean, I'm kind of more of the sports specific and the training, but she doesn't let them slack around the house. Cleaning your rooms. My boys, they've been doing chores for 6, 7 years. So
I love that.
Now they got the baby. How old is she?
My daughter's 5 and she's not going to wrestle. She's been playing tennis for over a year, so the same level that I want my boys to be at to win world Olympic medals. We want that same path for my daughter in the tennis realm.
What does practice look like? What does it take to prepare a kid to be in, to qualify, to be in, to even play at that realm? Like what does that look like?
It's a year-round commitment, and then I think where people make the mistake is like, oh, the high school season's over, I need a break. I was like, you don't need a break. You know what I mean? Like, the intensity is different. I know you were ramping up for this national tournament or this state title run, but maybe a week off. But during that week, you're going to get a couple runs. You're going to, go lift. You're still going to be active. So I have a year training plan. It's periodization, I call it. So there's different levels. I want my boys to peak 3 or 4 times a year. You know what I mean? But they're always going to be doing something. I mean, the intensity will be way different. the importance of every single rep might be different as they're, getting ready for Fargo or as we're getting ready for the US Open. But after that, we might not have something coming up for 8 to 12 weeks. So, hey, let me back off. Instead of going 6, 7 days a week, we're going to go 4 days a week, but the focus will be different. Hey, let's recoup the body. Let's build it back up. Let's not worry about weight management, different things like that. So their mind isn't burnt out. But if you try to be at a level 10 year round, that's when kids get burnt out. I call it, hey, we might, this part of this year or this time frame of the year, we might be training at level 5, at level 6. But we're doing something. We're not getting too far from the fire. So I think that's where I feel I do better than most is I keep the kids engaged year round.
That's amazing. I only have one final question. I know we're getting kind of close to time. And I'm sure Ty has some other questions too. But it seems like, parenting is a tough thing. Like being a parent is a tough thing. And I think a lot of people struggle with being a parent. How to teach the kids, how to discipline, too much discipline, not enough discipline, like all that stuff out there. I wonder is there a tip, or is there like a top tip that you would give a parent in parenting? Like you've got one into college, West Point. I mean, that's incredible in and of itself. And you're raising up, some young ones as well. You've learned this over the last 20 years. What's one tip or one piece of advice you'd give to any parent out there who's raising their kids today?
I think what's worked for us is my commitment to my wife. And God is centered in our lives. God is the number one thing. That we never lose sight of that. We never lose focus of that. So have I made mistakes? Have I, been too hard on my boys? Absolutely. I will, but at the same time, I will take ownership. I will go to them and say, hey, maybe I was a little bit too hard. I apologize. Stuff like that. Like I don't have that big of an ego where I won't apologize to my own kids and take ownership, of my faults as well. But I think communication and where you want to go and having both parents be on the same page has been vital to our success. And I always give credit to my wife, and also at the same time, we give gratitude. To the process, give gratitude to everything that we have. Like, in my opinion, I have everything that I need. I don't have fancy cars, I don't have this and that, but I don't want those things. I'm able to send my boys, all over the country and do what they love and not have to budget for it. I'm going to go visit my son in a couple of weeks. I get to travel, I get to be around people. So I don't care about fancy things or the latest things. I care about experiences and relationships. And that's how my wife is too. I want to give my kids experiences. I want to experience things, and I want to have great relationships with other high-level thinkers, other ambitious people, other people that I can continue to learn from and, ask questions and stuff like that. So that's what's most important to us, is just surround ourselves with other people that also have high aspirations.
I love that, man. I think that's incredible. My little boy is 8 years old, and he ran 15 miles with me a couple of weeks ago.
That's amazing.
That was there was a point where he started crying and I think it was at like mile 5 or 6, and I was like, oh man, we got a long way to go. But he was just crying, and I said, come on, let's go. And I might have been a little rough on him at that moment, but I'm gonna tell you what, he pushed through. He pushed through that, and he pushed through, and he pushed through, and he didn't quit. And you could see him struggle for probably 4 or 5 miles, but he got there, and he finished strong. And I think when we push our kids, and when they stretch and they grow and they do more, like you stretch a rubber band, you can stretch it more the next time, you can stretch it more the next time, you can stretch. It's about that growth and just the knowledge that I did it right. Yeah. So I love what you're doing. That's what I had. Ty, I'll kick it back to you.
Yeah, I mean, great stuff, right? Putting our kids in uncomfortable positions, right? You're not gonna get any progress or or make any progress staying in your comfort zone. And so, and I got to give Dave credit and a shout out, man. He's a marathon runner.
Yeah.
This guy's running 26 miles, and his goal this year, I think, is what, one marathon a month?
One marathon a month. I got Las Vegas coming up next week.
I think one of my managers that manages my Fresno location, he's running in the same one.
Oh yeah, that's awesome. Yeah, it's man, I love the I don't know if I love it, but I do enjoy the running and I enjoy the training and the physical aspect of it. And 12 marathons, 12 months, that's my goal. Prepare for 2026. 2026. I'll be 46 and I want to do a 100-mile run. I want to do 100 miles in 24 hours. I want to do an ultra marathon. That's what I'm shooting for.
That's amazing. I can't do that. running long distance is my nemesis. I'll do sprints all day, but that long distance, I've done like 5, and how sore my body was after 5 miles is like worse than any other wrestling workout that I've ever done.
I just started this last year, right? This has just been, man, I need to be in shape. I need to be focused, but I also want my kids to see, like, just like what you said, like, I want to see dad putting in the hard work. I want to see dad up early. I want to see, hey, it's Saturday morning. Let's go knock out 10 miles. It's, hey, last night I didn't get off of work till, 9 o'clock. I worked till 9 o'clock. I needed to get my run in. Okay. Yeah, wow. I'm going to hit the gym at 9:30. Come on, D, let's go. Hit it with me, and just, you put in that discipline, that time, that energy, and it keeps you out of the street life. It keeps you off of drugs. It keeps you focused on what your goals are. And so I'm a big believer in everything. But I've got a page and a half of notes just listening to you share this morning. So it's been a great teaching lesson for me. So I've loved everything you've said today.
Izzy, you probably share this, man. It's always about trying to get our kids to see the big picture. Like, hey, these people that you're meeting today, they're going to go on and they're going to be millionaires, or they're going to go on and they're going to be bosses in their industry, and you're going to have connections to them, and then you're going to be connected, and you're going to be where you're at. I think that's the tough thing. I know for me as a parent is getting our kids to see that and get out of that childhood frame of mind and just focused on their video games and YouTube and TikToks and trying to get them to see big picture. And it's hard, right? Because their mind is still maturing, but I know Izzy's been a great example of that. Like, look where your wrestling career has taken you. It's opened doors, right? It's gotten you to, you're being a D1 head coach. You know what it takes to be a recruiter and to build a D1 program. And that has led you, your connections there led you to your position now with the Iridium Sports Agency as the collegiate recruiting director. And that opportunity has now led you coaching the corner of one of the best fighters in the UFC, Brandon Moreno. I mean, I'm a super big fan of his. Seeing you walk out with him is like aspiring. I'm like, dude, that's badass. I know him. That's my freaking bro. And dude, you've been in an ESPN sports commercial with Brandon. You know what I mean? Super happy for you. Like, those types of things you want your kids to see and say, hey, all this hard work, that I put in my whole life, 30 years of wrestling has gotten me here. Right. So with that said, man, what is it like living with Brandon Moreno for a couple weeks, or getting him ready for a big pay-per-view main event?
It's all the same. I mean, if I'm coaching my kids or I'm coaching Brandon, it's all the same thing. I wouldn't work with Brandon. It's a big sacrifice. I'm flying back and forth to Vegas, for 8 weeks training camp, away from my family. But if he didn't have the level of commitment that I wanted, I would never do it.
Because he's not a big wrestler. He's a striker.
He's a striker, jiu-jitsu. He's actually the most well-rounded MMA that I've ever seen. The way he transitions from style to style is amazing. But Brandon is family to me now. I mean, Brandon is like an uncle to my boys. I mean, I love his daughters. His wife is amazing. And our team is amazing. We have his Muay Thai coach is from Mexico. His boxing coach is one of the best boxing coaches in the world. Our head coach, Coach Safe, he's closing in on 100 wins as a coach in the UFC. But when we all come together, we have one goal, one mission, and that's, get Brandon Moreno a win, and it's a family. And, I love going over there. I hate leaving home, but I love, when I'm there, and how he's a sponge and he's listening. And, a couple fights ago, I made a recommendation of training his, transitioning his training plan different, week by week. And he listened, you know what I mean? And he's already won a world title and stuff like that. And I made a suggestion, and he took that suggestion to heart, and he made the changes that I suggested because he trusts me, So that's what I said. I wouldn't do. I'm not motivated by the money, but it's all about experiences and relationships. Like I mentioned earlier, that experience of making that walk to the octagon, and you're in front of,
The biggest stage, man. That's pretty cool.
20, 30,000 fans, winning a world title, being the main event. Like I've never not coached the main event, in the UFC, which is pretty rare, but I don't take those things for granted. I always tell myself I'm grateful for this opportunity. I'm grateful to be here, grateful to have these people around me. So I don't take those things for granted, not one day, So Brandon's just like any other one of my students. I asked for a certain level of commitment from all my athletes, and he gives it. So I teach him the same way I do any athlete.
Yeah, and Diego Lopez is. I know he's within the agency. Do you get to coach him at all? I know you interact with him a little bit, but
yeah, when our schedules, cross paths, and I'm there with Brandon, stuff like that. He's back in Mexico. I actually facilitated Diego to go work with David Taylor and go to Oklahoma State for 2 weeks and stuff like that. So Diego's, I'm not in his camp full time, but whenever we're together, we always work together. So Diego, he knows that I'm an ally of his. Whatever he needs, whenever he needs, just ask. So yeah, I'll work with him in the coming fights.
I know we're getting to that time. We gotta, as Dave calls it, bring this thing in for a landing, right, Dave? But
we got to do it. We got to do it. We could go longer, but the recording platform gives us 1 hour to shoot, so we don't want to cut any of this out. I mean, I can't think of a minute of this show that I would want to cut. Right, this has been off the charts.
I guess
in my opinion,
the last thing want to give Iridium a plug here. I know you got some wrestling camps coming up that we've gone to every year. You got some coming up here in Washington in April.
Yeah.
Do you want to talk about that real quick?
April 11th and 13th, we're going back to Marysville. That's my high school, so I like to go back, give back. It's an amazing camp. I bring some of my, awesome friends come. So we have the head USA women's coach, Terry Steiner's coming out. We have Coach Doug Schwab, who's, probably one of the hottest coaches. University of Northern Iowa is doing an amazing job this year. He's coming out. Then we have a couple other, the rising stars from Penn State coming out. So come out. I know Ty always comes out and supports, but this camp is just to give back to the community and get everybody together. And wow. April 11th to the 13th.
That's awesome. Is that open to anybody?
Open to anybody. Yeah, we have about 200 to 250 kids come out every year.
Wow, incredible.
Yeah, right.
Awesome.
Well, we got to bring
a fantastic
this
show. We got to bring it for a landing. So, any final thoughts as we close? Any final thoughts for our audience?
No, I appreciate you guys' time. Like I said, I follow the show. I'm just happy to come share my experiences, share my knowledge, and if it can help anybody, wonderful. And, good friend of Ty, so I was happy to do this.
Awesome.
Yeah.
Ty, any final thoughts?
Yeah, I'm thankful for your time coming on the show, man. I'm thankful for our friendship. I'm thankful for you always staying on me. Whenever I'm posting my food pics, he doesn't let me get away without saying something, right? And he shares. He's got a shared note that he's got all the workout plans that he's constantly updating, which I have been using, by the way.
Great.
He's just, I'm just thankful for you, man. You're always trying to make everybody around you better and a better person. I thank you for taking my kids in, and hopefully Panda can come spend some time with you guys here soon. Yeah. But yeah, I'd love to have you back on the show.
Anytime.
Awesome. Thank you guys. Listen, if you like the show, give us a like, Give us a share. Drop your comments in the comment box. Follow us on social media, Instagram, Facebook, LinkedIn. We're hanging out in those places. We'll be back in 2 weeks. Thank you, guys.
Oi.
Well, hey.